So you're ready to start taking sponsors for your show. You know whether or not you're going to go mass market or niche because you listened to the last episode of the Podcast Accelerator. But today, we're going to go into a little bit more depth on fixed price versus CPM sponsorship options and whether you can actually negotiate a fixed price sponsorship deal. Got to put my teeth in today. This, of course, is the Podcast Accelerator. Welcome to this show. I'm Mark Asquith, CEO and co-founder of Rebel Base Media, where we make podcast technology, including the podcast hosting, analytics, and audience growth platform, Captivate.fm. I truly believe it's the most innovative podcast hosting platform on the planet that actively helps you to grow your audience. All right, so go and get 7 days on us if you want to kick the tires of Captivate at Captivate.fm. Now, we are going to talk sponsorships, and if you're listening to a podcast app of choice, welcome back. It's always great to be talking to you. Maybe if you're over on YouTube, welcome to the new video version of the Podcast Accelerator. We can chat here in the comments as well. Now, all of these episodes for the last 2 weeks and for the next 4 weeks are based on our big tentpole ultimate guide to podcast monetization, which you can find at captivate.fm/money. Go and check that out. It's a very, very in-depth blog post that just overviews every single one of the 15 ways that we know that you can monetize your podcast, all right? And you don't just have to use one of them. You can use as many of them as you like. So go and check that out again at captivate.fm/money. Now, let's talk sponsorships, all right? It's very, very difficult to realize that you have other options now. You know, podcasting is not being treated, certainly for independents, not being treated just like radio like it used to be. You know, there used to be really only 1 or 2 ways to get sponsorship, but now we've got a few more options. And one of them is, of course, fixed price sponsorship. That's actually how I work with the team at Aweber, who sponsored this show, the email marketing platform. Go and check it out, markasquith.com/Aweber, because you need to be building an email list for your show. And when I was working with Aweber on actually figuring out, you know, is this the right fit for the Podcast Accelerator? Is Aweber the right sponsor? Am I the right show for Aweber to partner with? We went through a lot of different chats and a lot of different kind of ideas and how we could serve the audience. Ultimately, we came up with the idea that, yes, it is the right type of show because I've got a real solid base of new podcasters and existing podcasters that really want to figure out how to grow their show. And the thing that they perhaps aren't so great at, because I wasn't so great at it when I first started out in podcasting and marketing, is building email lists. So we worked together on crafting something that would really, really help. And when it came to discussing pricing, which is always a weird discussion to have, you know, I was thinking to myself, well, look, I've got two options. I can either take a CPM rate, which is the cost that a sponsor like Aweber would be willing to pay per 1,000 downloads of the show, or I could fix that cost. And in my view, for my show, and because it's, you know, it's something that we run alongside the other things that we build like Captivate.fm, you know, it's not my main breadwinner. It was really a very strong option for me to say, well, look, let's go fixed price on this. And the reason is that I believe that the value that I can bring to the brand, to Aweber and to any other sponsor, is disproportionate to realistically what a CPM rate would represent. And the reason for that is that I know that I've got highly engaged podcasters that listen to the show. And I know that because I spend time talking to those podcasters 3 times per week on the podcast, over on YouTube, in the Facebook groups, and doing the deep dive Q&As that we do with our community, I know that over the long term, I can add more value. So we discussed the fact that a fixed price sponsorship would be worth it because I ultimately, without sounding crass, ultimately I can negotiate slightly more per episode as a rate, and I can negotiate a 3 or a 6 month initial term because I know that I can provide more value, and the people sponsoring, such as an Aweber or whatever, they know that actually if they were to sponsor on a CPM rate, that's probably undercutting things a little bit because CPM rates just aren't great. They're not amazing. $30, $35 top end per 1,000 downloads. And if you are an independent podcaster, if you're a hobby podcaster that's only got, maybe 200, 300 listens per episode, what you need to be thinking about is actually, are these pretty well engaged people though? Like, are they a very specific type of audience? Because if so, that fixed price sponsorship where you really illustrate the value that you can bring, you really show that your audience is engaged, you devise experiments to engage your audience, to prove that you can engage them, get them to email you, get them to tweet you, get them to go and check you out on YouTube or Instagram and go and like a specific picture. Just devising these experiments is a really great way of almost treating your podcast like a startup. You know, you've got to kind of devise these experiments to prove that you can do something. And of course, the thing that you're trying to prove is that you can get engagement. But if you can prove that, then you can get fixed price sponsorship and you can monetize your podcast and make money from your podcast in a way that doesn't only suit the brand, because these guys have got a budget for sponsoring things. You know, they've got a budget built into it. If they're at the point where they're considering podcast sponsorships, they've already allocated a fair budget to it. So you're not taking anything from them that they've not already allocated. It's up to you to just negotiate the best deal for you both, because this is a partnership. This is one thing I firmly believe in business, firmly believe in podcasting, that just because someone's paying you, it doesn't turn it into a master-servant relationship. It's a collaboration, it is a partnership, and you are being compensated for the value that you bring. Okay, that's why you're getting paid. You're not getting paid because it's a master-servant relationship. Okay, they don't own you. They don't own the creative process. Okay. The reason that I say that is that you can be more confident with fixed price sponsorships. You can gauge your revenue, and if you want to treat your podcast like a business, you can project your cash flow. You can understand what you are going to put out there will be probably more specific to the context of that sponsor. Like what you'll notice at the beginning of this show is that I rolled that host read into the content. It's not a generic, hey, did you know that you can get 30 days free at Aweber? It's none of that stuff. It's, hey, by the way, I'm talking about this thing, and here's the context of the ad and the context of the read in the shape of the episode, all right? So you can get much more creative with these fixed price things as well, because you probably have more of a commitment, and you will be committed to the partnership more because you're getting paid more fairly for it, all right? So think about that. Can you get yourself in a position by testing your audience, testing that engagement, devising experiments to engage that audience? Can you put yourself in a position using the techniques we've talked about in the last couple of episodes, how to pitch, using the one-click sponsor kit from Captivate? Can you do that? And can you put yourself in a position where you can negotiate fixed price sponsorships? Okay. Go and check that out. Just go and check out all the other content. Captivate.fm/money is the ultimate guide to monetizing your podcast. And of course, we do free coaching every single week over in the Facebook group, rebelbasemedia.io/free coaching. So take heed of that advice, start to think it through, put it all together, and until the next time, thanks for joining me, and never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.